State your name.
My name is Kenny Becker.
Now, what do you do?
I work in computer recycling.
First, when you were out of high school, what were your main ideas?
I didn't really have a lot of focus out of high school. I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I was not lost, but I was a typical 18-year-old kid who didn't really know what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I could be candid, right, on this?
Yeah, go for it.
It wasn't until I got somebody pregnant when I was 19 where I really had to figure out what I was going to do. And then, to be honest, I was just thumbing through the newspaper like, oh crap, I'm about ready to have a kid. I need to make some money. And there happened to be an ad for a school that did the Microsoft certifications, the MCSE certs for networking and stuff like that. And it was just a little school in Salt Lake. And I was like, well, I could do this. And before that, I had never really been on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Never, maybe in school and things like that, but very basic stuff. And it enabled me to get a job up here in Washington in the high-tech industry, just working on basic computer hardware. So it's kind of how I got into, the IT market, I guess, hardware and things like that. So, and then, from there, worked on computers, learned about computers, and then started doing something on the side. I know, always growing up, I always set up stuff. I'd mow people's lawns for money, I'd sell lemonade on the street. I remember when I was 14, me and my friend got, what's that stuff around Christmas time?
Oh, the holly tree?
The holly trees.
Mm-hmm.
And we would wrap it up and we'd sell it out in front of the store for like $1 for like a little bundle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always doing stuff to make money. And I knew I always wanted to do something on my own,
Mm-hmm.
So there came a time in the company I was working for up here, and it was a leasing company. So they leased out computer equipment to all these larger companies, and then when the lease was up, we would get that computer equipment back if the customer didn't want to buy it flat out, right? So they had gotten in must have been 500 huge 20-inch CRT monitors, massive monitors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is back in 1999, and there was really no outlet for them. They didn't know how to get rid of them. So they told us employees, hey, if you guys can sell these, we'll give them to you for this much. You can sell them for whatever you want if you know anybody who wants to buy some monitors. So I placed an ad in the Seattle Times. That was obviously before Craigslist and all that stuff. And I was selling them 10 a day at that point. And my boss came to me and said, hey, I know you're selling stuff on the side. No big deal. You're not conflicting with us, but why don't you sell it for us full time? And I thought, okay, I can do that. And then you can use our money to go out and buy this stuff and then resell it. And this was back in, now going into 2000. And so I started using their money, buying product, buying hard drives or whatever computer equipment may be. At that time, most computer equipment was pretty expensive. And in the first year, I did like 1.3 million in sales.
Were there any negative influences during that time that distracted you?
Yeah, definitely. When I was starting my own company, I was actually going through a divorce at the same time. So it was kind of tough. But I knew it felt like the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like if I was going to do something on my own, then this was the time to do it. And I think I kind of harnessed a lot of the energy of dealing with that stuff and put it into my business, like a lot of that stressful energy, put it into my company. It gave me an outlet to where I could just work and work and work 7 days a week, and it helped me kind of deal with things. Yeah, I think, at that point, that was kind of the negativity of it.
Okay. Further in the class, we're also talking about, like you said, outlets.
Yeah.
Do you have any other outlets outside of work as well that keep your mind?
Yeah, definitely. For me, exercise has been big. Yoga has been my number one way of kind of dealing with stuff. Kind of decompresses me and lets me just kind of clear my head.
Mhm.
And then obviously, often on course races and things like that, or something to look forward to, or at least kind of build up to. Yeah, it's definitely been yoga.
Mhm.
And that's really the only thing that kind of calms me down. I mean, I literally think of work nonstop. I mean, I wake up thinking about work, I go to bed thinking about work.
And so to counteract that stress of work, yoga, while also right now you're doing well for yourself, right?
Yeah.
What do you strive now rather than when you were back then striving to provide a healthy home for soon-to-be daughter?
Yeah, I think, like you said, back then I was, trying to make sure that my kids would grow up well, and that they were taken care of, and there was no struggle. I came from an environment where my family was always struggling as a kid, so I didn't want them to experience that. So the drive and the motivation was definitely, to make money, so they weren't struggling, so they could have things, so they didn't have to worry about stuff. And I think now it's not so much about the money, even though I always want the company to grow, and obviously what comes with that is money.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about taking care of my employees. It's become kind of my number one priority, making sure they're doing okay, they're getting paid fairly, if the company's doing well, they're treated well. And it's more become about, we're doing something good for the environment. We're making sure things are recycled responsibly, and we're eliminating about 300,000 pounds of waste a month, through there. So it's become more about that. It's not so much about money anymore. The kids are grown now, don't really have to worry about that too much. It's more just about doing the right thing, making sure the employees are treated fairly, and that they can also take part in how well the company's doing.
And is there a theme that you connect to, or something you tell yourself to get through things, such as work, even if you know that things are doing well, that you have to keep on going?
My theme is I am very fortunate to be able to do what I want to do. I own my own company, and I'm the leader of my path. There's nobody above me dictating to me, you know what I mean? Kind of my career, and that's kind of always in the back of my head even if I get stressed at work, because really there's obviously times where you're going to be stressed, but at least I'm the one that's able to fix it. I'm in charge. I don't have to worry about somebody else above me firing me, or if it all collapses, it's on me. But if it does well, then it's on me and my employees. So I'm just my thing is just push forward always and do what you want.
Sorry to be cliche, but you're the master of your destiny.
Yeah, definitely.
And that your resolve should reflect your actions as well, to the extent that if you're looking out, or if you're going for something, you should keep at it, and that even if you fail, at least you learn something from it.
That's right, and the risk is always worth the reward. There's so many people that I know who work a daily job and are so unhappy, but they do it because obviously they need to make money. Everybody needs to make money. They got to live. They got to survive. I say, especially the college kids, take the risk. Especially while you can. You don't have kids. You don't have family. You don't have to worry about taking care of anybody but yourself. Take risk, because do it while you're young, at least. You don't have all that responsibility. It's okay if you fell.
Hmm.
You just get back up and do it again. You keep at it, whatever you want.
But how you identify as working now is different when you were working in the early 2000s under someone?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because now I'm working for myself, and you don't have that same drive if you're not actually owning the company. You're not invested in it the same way. So, you don't really have that maybe same kind of passion, that you would working underneath somebody else.
Any closing statements?
Yeah, I would just reiterate, if you want something, just go get it. Don't listen to anybody. Just focus on what you want and get it. Take risk and don't be scared to lose. Don't be scared to fail. It's okay.